Morning, everyone. I'd like to call a meeting to order and acknowledge we're in Treaty 1 and Dakota Nation's territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. Sitting on the panel today, we have Ms. Carrie Linklater and Mr. Jeff Peich. My name is Stu. The secretary for today's hearing is Mr. Jason Robertson, and representing the City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department, we have two assessors today. For item 1, we have Mr. Arif Das Mohammed, and for item number 3, we have Mr. Jonathan Spachik. We'll be hearing applications for revisions of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to those matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council. It's independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they so wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 and 3 on our docket today. We'll begin with item 1. So, Mr. Robertson, would you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony?
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. Mr. Applicant, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Jared Story.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, may you please state your name?
Arif Das Mohammed.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Story.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Just to be very clear, we're just seeking confirmation today. So if that expedites matters, we'll just be requesting confirmation of the BA.
Well, thank you for that. It's just you're representing the owners of 3 Winfield Way, or the occupants of 3 Winfield Way, and it's the amount of the assessed value that is in contention today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Das Mohammed.
Morning.
When you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay, so Board of Revision file number 22-55, roll year is 2021, address is 3 Winfield Way, a business assessment ID or roll, business roll is 42090, total ARV value is 290,820, total area of all premises is 26,902 square feet. The overall ARV per square foot works out to $7.88. So the premise is 23853 Total premise area is 36,902 square feet. Base ARV is $212,925. That works out to $5.77 per square foot. Total occupancy costs are $77,897. And again, ARV works out to $290,820. At the bottom of page 1, I have all the comparables. And again, I believe the applicant is just seeking confirmation.
Yes.
I thank you. So your recommendation is to maintain the assessed rental value that's in the roll. Is that correct, Mr. Dos Mohammed?
Yes, it is.
I thank you. Mr. Story, you don't have any questions or concerns regarding this then?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, any questions or concerns regarding this?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peich, questions or concerns?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none. Thank you. Mr. Story, anything further to add, or are we just standing with your request to have it confirmed?
That's correct. Yep. Just requesting confirmation today. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you. That will conclude that item. Thank you for your participation today, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Robertson, do we have the next applicant and assessor?
We do have the next applicant, and I just let the next assessor in. Perfect. Should be ready to go. Let's affirm.
Okay, I will have you affirm the applicant and the assessor, please.
Okay. Mr. Applicant, please stand. Please state your full name for the record.
Trevor Smith.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Assessor,
Good morning.
please state your full name.
Jonathan Spacek.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
You're here representing the premise occupants for 1310 Regent Avenue West, and it's the amount of the assessed value we're dealing with only today.
That's correct.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Spacek.
Good morning.
You're representing the city in this particular property, so when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Thank you very much. If everybody could just turn to my first page, we have a BA appeal today for 1310 Regent Avenue West. This is a vehicle dealership that was built in 2021. It's a Birchwood Volkswagen. We have a total annual rental value of $534,000, a total premise square footage of 32,840 square feet, and a total ARV of 1624. This is a base rent of $1394. So the actual model generated net rent for this property is $1394 a square foot, and then we add the occupancy costs that total $76,201 to get that total annual rental value of $534,000. This is an owner-occupied property, and I am asking today we maintain that value of $534,000. There was a hearing on this property at the end of last week, so I was when I put my evidence together, I didn't have that evidence to review in time, but I did review that evidence, and it looks like we are taking that decision forward. So I am asking to maintain the annual rental value today, despite that decision. If we turn to my page 2, again, this is a 2-story car dealership. I've included the rent comparables that it's a global list across the city of retail. And if anyone here has had any dealership hearings in the last couple cycles, you will know, and I will reiterate that there's very few, if any, non-owner occupied car dealerships. So we get into this dilemma every time where what is the closest comparable rents? What would be net rents for a property of this type in this location? And we are of the opinion that the retail along Regent and Nairn and other main routes where dealerships are good comparables for a property like this. So this property was built in 2021. I have a list of comparables. You can see there's 27 of them, but I'll just point out a couple. You'll see they're all very similar in sizes and uses as big box retail stores. So if you look at my third comparable, we have 1080 Nairn, which is pretty close to the subject property down the street on Nairn. It was built in 2007. Just see one thing here. For example, this is a Salvation Army, to give you an idea of what it is, but it's a 14,000 square foot larger building that rents out for $14 a square foot. If you take a look at my comparable number 8, we have 1580 Regent Avenue. So again, close to the subject property, built in year 2000. This is a retail big box store with a lease in 2015 for, that one's for $20 a square foot, 25,000 square feet. We have comparable 1578 Regent Avenue West. This was built in 2000. It's a 2015 lease for 5 years, 21,000 square feet at $16. And if you look at comparable 15, I'll end on that one, but 1580 Regent Avenue West, 2001 retail, built 2016. It's 40,000 square feet, and it's at $15.65. So these are the type of net rents, some of the net rents that are being obtained on Regent. And again, for BA purposes, we're looking at that base rent per square foot or the net rent of the property. We're at $13.94, and we have a range of 14 to 20. But the $13.94 does not seem unreasonable for a brand new 2-story large retail building or similar type of building on Nairn. And it's pretty straightforward. But for BA, we're just looking at that one thing, the rent, and that's the evidence I've brought today. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, questions for the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Spacek.
Good morning, Trevor.
Just a few questions. The ARV as developed, this is model driven, I imagine?
Yes, yeah. It's the same rent that came up for the retail realty of the building.
Right. Okay. And then the rent comparables on page number 2 of your brief there. As you mentioned, these are the rental comparables that have been used in many other auto dealer hearings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they represent, as you had mentioned, big box retail rents. And they, just looking them over, they are in locations. They're basically in 3 locations from what I can see. We're looking at Polo Park locations. We're looking at the Regent and La Jamotier retail power center node location. And then we're looking at a few that are around either IKEA or the McGilvery and Kenniston power center node. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay. You had mentioned a couple on, just before I get to that, tenancies that I'm looking at when I go over the list. We're looking at largely national retailers such as Staples, Giant Tiger, Safeway, Michaels, Ashley, The Brick, Petland, Bed Bath & Beyond, Old Navy, Marks. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely true.
Okay. And you had mentioned a couple on Regent. Now, unfortunately, I didn't review my list ahead of time. I see it's been slightly rejigged, so I do have I have a couple that are missing here. You had 15, your comparable number 19, 1546 Regent. That is a pet land at the Crossroads Station Power Center.
That is true.
Okay. What would the 1580 would be in that same power center node, I imagine, correct?
Yes.
Yes, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peich?
So, Mr. Assessor, I just want to be clear. Presently, we have no representative prevailing rents for auto dealerships.
Yes, that is true. For actually reported net rents, yeah, arm's length for large dealerships, they all seem to be owner occupied.
Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you. Is the property fully air conditioned, Mr. Assessor?
I believe so. If we have it as all in the 30, so air conditioning, so we have 20,000 of it's 20,000 out of the 32,000 square feet air conditioned.
I see. Sorry. So I'm assuming it's the service area.
I would
that's
assume
not
the same.
air-conditioned. Is that correct? Okay. You stated that there were, I think your exact words were few, if any, rented dealerships. So there are some.
I mean, there are some that are reported as net, but are they true net? It doesn't seem like it. And then there's some, land leases that are turned into dealership leases, and there's just nothing. There's no clean net rents that we've been able to find for any of the larger, bigger, newer dealerships.
Okay. And same thing, the vehicle service related properties, are there any of those that are larger that could be used as comparisons?
Yeah, if I guess in theory for the service part, for the garage part, you could find some, you could include some, large Cal tires and newer ones like that. There's some stuff like that.
But you haven't brought any of that.
I haven't included any of the service portion of it.
I see. Okay, I thank you. Mr. Smith, we'll hear from you when you're ready, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me all right? I'll take
Yes.
that as a yes.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. So as Mr. Spacek just referred to slightly earlier, we did just have the realty, supplemental realty hearing for this property last week. I'll direct your attention to the addenda of my report. First page is shown as A-1. This is the decision from that hearing, and it's specific to this exact property. So the information that I'm presenting with regard to rental rates and much of the other information is identical to what was included in the realty decision that just came out on this property. So if you review that decision, you can see that it's based on the applicant's evidence with a vacancy rate of 3%. So there was a slight change in the vacancy rate over what was proposed. Following that, you have copies of my presentation for the realty, so the cover page, and then the summary of my valuation. So looking at that, you can see that the rental rate that was applied to the property is $12.50 per square foot. And that is what we're seeking today for the rental rate, again, for the property. To support this, I've included two other very recent realty decisions, also on brand new automobile dealerships owned by the same overall company, Birchwood Automotive Group. Just brand new construction again, very similar in terms of the property build out to the subject property that we're dealing with today. Both of them located fronting on Kenaston in South Winnipeg. And the decisions in those cases, as shown at the back, were also based on $12.50 per square foot, with the identical information presented before you today. So I'll get into the brief very quickly. As Mr. Spacek referred to, the challenge, of course, in valuing auto dealerships is a lack of true net rental rates for auto dealers out there in the marketplace. They tend to be owner occupied, and the ones that aren't are either have special considerations such as non-market rents and buyout clauses, etc., and or they're used auto dealers of a very small nature that aren't really comparable to modern dealerships. So we find ourselves in the same position as the city. We don't have reliable net rental rates to provide on auto dealers. So the question becomes, how do you effectively value these on the income basis? So what we have done and what I've done across the board on all the auto dealers that I represent is look at the structure and make a determination of what best represents fair market rental rates for that structure. So when you look at an auto dealer, it is essentially two portions. You have the auto service portion, which is repair and auto service. That is the rear portion of the building. It's more industrial and or service related, as you'll see from the photos. And then you have the front showroom / office area of the building. Now, just a slight correction, the building we're looking at is not a full two-story building. There's mezzanine office area, of course, at the front of the building, but there is not a full second floor that extends over the service area at the back. So just so the panel is aware of that. Pardon me. So the breakdown essentially between front and rear, typically we're looking at, call it 35 to 45, 50% of the building is typically showroom / office, where you have the car display, you have reception, you have a coffee area for vehicle purchasers, customers, and then you have the service desks, you have the finance area, admin, etc., and that's what consumes the rest of that front office area. So let's look at the subject property. So backing up quickly, again, back to the model, what best represents the coming up with a fair market rental rate for these different components. So what we have done is look at auto service and auto garage rental rates out there in the marketplace for the rear of the building. And then we've looked at showroom retail net rental rates in good locations for the front section of the building, and combine those two to come up with a fair rental rate for the property. So let's look quickly at the subject property located 1310 Regent Avenue West. It was previously a used auto dealer for the Birchwood Group, considerably smaller building. And they have demolished that former structure and erected a new auto dealership for Volkswagen on the property. Now, if you look at my page number 3, you can see the site area is 1.69 acres and the overall leasable area just over 32,000. Main floor area, 24,130 square feet. So our land to plan area ratio is just over 3-to-1. For auto dealerships, this is a critical feature, and typically you're looking for at least 8-to-1 in order to effectively serve the market. The reasons for this are you have product display, you need to have vehicles on site for customers to see and drive. You need to have area for parking of vehicles that are in for service, which is a significant area of the place. You need to have client parking as well as employee parking as well. So the land requirement is significant, as well as circulation on the lot. So as you can see, the subject property at 3-to-1 is has significantly less that land than is ideal for an auto dealership. The reason that Birchwood can do this, and keep in mind this is specific to Birchwood because they own the adjacent parcels of land. So as a owner with other parcels adjacent to it, they're able to take advantage of that and store some of the vehicles on other sites adjacent, as well as land that they have in the area for storage of product. But looking at the parcel as a standalone at 3-to-1, it's very underserved with regard to land. Additionally, again, looking at that situation, by transferring vehicles to the other adjacent lots, that also impacts their storage capacity, etc. So it's not an ideal situation, but it is one that they needed to take advantage of because the former building had become obsolescent due to layout size, etc., and demands of the auto dealers themselves. So we can move on from there. Pictures of the property, as you can see, are on pages 4 through 8. I'll let you flip through those. Fairly standard. You've got your showroom, some of the service area, some of the admin area, and 1 or 2 of the exterior of the structure. The site itself is shown on page 9. So as you can see, with the border of the site itself, it is a relatively small land parcel, which is underserved for auto dealership use. Now, looking at location, and this is fairly critical, the red dot on page number 10 indicates where the subject property is. This is located in that section of Regent Avenue to the east of the main rail corridor, and slightly past, well, on the north side, you have Club Regent Casino, kind of as a standalone, but it's in that strip of auto dealers that are located there. The retail component of Regent Avenue as a power center node is well to the west of the subject property, centered around Lagimodier and Regent Avenue, and indeed Kildonan Place. I'll get into quick description of the distinction between big box retail and auto dealers. So let's take you, pardon me for a moment, we'll back up very briefly. Auto dealer, automotive industry itself, sales in particular, is an industry that is shifting. What we're seeing is buyers looking online almost exclusively to start with in order to look for the type of car that they want, look at all of the options, determine what car they want, and then go and have a look at it and drive it at a dealership and make their purchase decision from there. Indeed, you can actually do the entire process online and buy and finance without ever setting foot in a dealership now. So what this has led to is less of a need for dealerships for clients, customers to go to and examine all of the vehicles. So we're looking at significant consolidation in the auto dealer market. The brands no longer need as many dealerships out there, and so they're consolidating into fewer but larger dealerships. More of a distribution center set up in the marketplace. This is also happening with Amazon entering the market in Europe and coming into the United States as well, and eventually that will take place in Canada, driving down margins and profitability in the industry according to their model. Now, that's a bit of background on the auto dealership market. The other thing we're seeing, obviously, is and more so now than ever, is the shift to electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, and the future of automotive is somewhat in flux at the moment for the reasons stated. Now, back to the point I was making previously with regard to automobile dealerships versus big box retail as presented by the city. Automobile dealerships are special use facilities that are not suited to big box retail in terms of them taking place in the subject property or other dealerships. If I can direct you to my page number 13, I have a quotation from the Appraisal Journal from an article called Peculiarities of Appraising Auto Dealership Facilities. And it states, auto dealership facilities are considered special use or special purpose properties, which means that they cannot typically be assigned other uses. There's another quote after that that's essentially the same. It's what this article is saying is that they do not lend themselves to other uses because of the layout and structure of the structures themselves. So you're looking at not a situation which you typically have in big box retail, where the majority of the structure itself is selling floor. So you would have generally in the towards 90% of the structure being selling floor with product often stacked on multi-levels, with a very small percentage of the building being a warehousing at the back for product to go out onto the floor as soon as it arrives. So I'll show you a quick example of this on the next page, but that's the general structure for big box retail. When you look at automotive dealers, they're entirely different, and you would not find big box retail being adequately housed in automobile dealership structure. Now, beyond that, you'll also not find these national chain big box retailers looking at either the locations for automobile dealerships versus where they are typically located in the big box retail nodes. Reason for this is well known. There's lots of studies on it that we could point to. Big box retailers and the developers for them, they group together because it drives more business for all of those retailers together. So you have your power center nodes where all of these retailers will locate with large parking areas out front, and that will drive more business for all of the retailers on site, because you can go from retailer to retailer to retailer to meet all of your shopping needs. When you look at those locations, so your McGillivray and Kenaston, IKEA, Polo Park, and on Regent, you're looking at the Regent and Lagimodiere Power Center node. They're different than where the auto dealers are located. As I said, subject property is well to the east of that node and is not surrounded by other retail such as those properties would be. Pardon me. on my page number 13, following down from the description of dealerships as special use facilities, I get into a discussion with regard to the life cycle of automobile dealerships. I won't run through that here today. Essentially, we're looking at dealerships moving from first run dealerships, so flagship Ford, Mazda, name a brand, dealerships where they're selling new cars, moving down the ladder once they become obsolescent for that use to used auto dealerships. And once they become obsolescent for that use, they typically sit vacant where you cannot necessarily find tenants because of the structure that they are, or they become redeveloped when tenants can't be found and another use becomes more profitable for that property. I've got various examples of that on page 13. My page 14 is simply an example of a big box retailer, Michael's on St. James Street, and the layout that you find for those type of facilities versus an automobile dealership as shown in the photos earlier. Now, we can move quickly beyond that into my leasing comparables. As I've said, what I've done is break the rental comparables into two sections. So I have an automotive section and I have a showroom retail section. And these are shown on page 15 and 17 of my brief. The automotive, typically we're looking at service and repair centers here. It's difficult to have automotive service centers of the size that you would have in an auto dealership out there in the marketplace. There's very, very few of them. So not all of these necessarily will be of the size that we're looking for and or brand new. You need to look at what's available in the marketplace and present the best information. So that's what we've done here. You can see the range of automotive service providers on my page 15. Typically, we're looking at properties that are on main thoroughfares, such as the properties on Nairn, Portage, Pembina, St. Anne's, Osborne, and or in good locations such as downtown. Happy to run through these if we need to. Typically, for automotive, we're looking at a range between a very low end of, call it $6.50, up to the very high end of under $13 per square foot. And again, we're looking at facilities that would be considerably smaller than the subject property, so they would typically drive higher rental rates than a much larger facility. The one that I will draw your attention to is shown on page 16, 1322 Waverly. This is the Not Auto Corporation. It is an arm's length lease, and they are leasing just over 27,000 square feet for 5 years for a term starting in 2018 at $6.85 a square foot. So on the low side, very well located at Waverly and McGilvery, excellent visibility in a good area of the town with high incomes. And you can see a photo of the exterior and interior of that facility as well. So that's the range we're looking at for automotive. When we look at showroom retail, beginning on page 17, what I've done here is, again, present showroom retail / office space with good visibility, relatively recent construction, or quite recent construction, located on major thoroughfares with good visibility. So these are kind of adjacent, for the most part, to big box retail. So I've given you 9 comparables here. I don't want to walk through each of them. You can see the tenancies for each of those. Our ages generally are quite new, with the oldest being 2008, or rather 2006, the newest being 2015 or 18 construction. And significant sizes for the majority of them as well. The two at 400 Fort White Way are located just to the west of the Costco on McGilvery, 11 and 25,000 square feet, $11 and $11.90 for those leases in 2013. Lorimer is located to the east of the IKEA 2016 lease at 1310 for that front area. The two at 1290 Kenniston, this is a former industrial building that has been entirely gutted and renovated and upgraded to retail. 2016 leases for 9,600 and 15,000 square feet at $12 and $12.50 for 10-year periods. And then you can see the rest of them there as well. So our range for showroom retail that we're looking at is generally in that $11 to $13 per square foot for the most part. And these facilities, again, I've given you the indication of where they're located, and they are the ones on Kenniston are particularly good indicators, I would suggest, being quite recent in time. Rental rates at 12 and 12.50, significant size, and they are they're located to the north of the rail tracks on Kenniston, from where that McGilvery and Kenniston Power Center node is. So very similar to the subject in terms of being separated from the retail node, but somewhat close by, with good visibility, and in and amongst other auto dealers that is immediately adjacent to significant repair facility, as well as the Mercedes dealership, with Audi just being kind of down the block. So that is our range for showroom retail. Looking at both of these, obviously we have a new structure, it's well built, etc. So we feel that we would be towards the upper end of that range. And if you balance the automotive repair and service area versus the showroom retail, we feel that 1250 certainly puts us at the upper end of that range for a facility of this size in this location of this vintage. So we've applied 1250 as our rental rates, and we're not in disagreement with any of the expenses that are applied. The air conditioning is applied to the area that is air conditioned. And so I will flip us forward to my page 25, which summarizes the ARV. Again, we've applied 1250 as the rental rate. We're in agreement with the expenses. And this gives us our final ARV of $486,700. And I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spatcha, questions for the applicant?
I have no questions today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkland, questions for the assessor? For the applicant? I'm sorry, you might be muted.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peich, questions for the applicant?
Good morning. Thank you for your very thorough presentation. You've made a very strong case that location is critical and auto dealerships are special use. You've used the term power center node, and you mentioned that the subject of property is east. I'm unfamiliar with that stretch. How far east is the subject property from the power center node?
Well, I'll direct your attention, Mr. Page, to my page number 10 there. So I don't want to misquote any actual distance, but if you look at the aerial photo on page number 10, on the far west side of that, you can see where Regent intersects Lagimodier. So around that intersection is where the majority of your retail is developed, with it stretching to the east along Regent Avenue for a bit. But the northwest of that intersection, stretching north quite a ways, is retail. You have Kildonan Place on the north side of Regent, to the east of Lagimodier there. The south side is, I think I referred to the name of it, Kildonan Crossing, I believe, where you have Best Buy, Superstore, Walmart, etc. And that stretches to the east. It tails off a bit as you get towards the train tracks. Costco is located on the north side. You cross the train tracks, and there's no longer that retail development. What you see on the east side as you head further down is some smaller scale, more local retailers. You have Club Regent, set back from Regent Avenue on the north side. But what you have on that stretch moving east is some auto dealers that are in that center. I guess that would be my comment.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you've given us two separate areas. I'm assuming to show your rental comps for the automotive part and the showroom part, and then you come up with an overall rate of $12.50. Was that just an overall estimate, or did you break down the areas and then do a blended rate?
It's not a specific breakdown by component of the building. No, it's professional judgment in looking at the rental rates that are there, and making an overall application. In describing the structure, I'm kind of walking you through my valuation process in looking at it. So we have a newly built structure in certainly a decent location, but not in those power center nodes, and with rental rates that are applicable from the charts that I've provided. So generally, they're showing rental rates that would be below what the city has presented. And if you look at the division of the property, again, we feel that $12.50 is certainly at the upper end of the range of what we present, which is reflective of the property being new. One thing to keep in mind on the open market, if you were an auto dealer and you were looking at renting this facility, the land area for the property again is very small in relation to what an actual auto dealer would need at the 3-to-1 land to plan area ratio. So that would have a significant impact on what a dealer would be willing to pay as well.
I thank you. Any desire for summation, Mr. Assessor?
Not today, Mr. Chair. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, desire for summation?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, I thank you both for your presentations today, gentlemen. The order will come in due course. With that, we have heard all the items that are scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.